Hi guys, welcome back to MMA UK. I'm Jared Miller, and it's a pleasure to be joined this afternoon by Taka the Cat Mhandu, a Cage Warriors fighter and bantamweight prospect. Taka, how are we, mate?
I'm very good. Thank you very much for having me on, Jay. I appreciate it.
No worries at all, mate. And firstly, over the weekend we had the UFC. Bantamweight is your division. I was wondering how you saw the fight between Merab and Yam, because obviously we all saw how that went.
Yeah, I think Mira puts a really high pace in terms of his grappling and his striking. So he likes to throw a lot of volume. Seems like he has the cardio there to do that all day. And it's a bit interesting now looking at Jan's last couple of fights, the kind of skid that he's been on. It's been interesting to see, but I think he's still right up there at the best of the best. But I'm just looking forward to seeing what decision Mirab's going to make between fighting Aljo or waiting to see if Cejudo beats him. But like when I'm looking at the division as not as a spectator, but as somebody that wants to put themselves right in the mixer of that, I think like obviously there's a very high level guys and it's a building process to get to where they are. But I feel like in a couple of years, not even a couple of years, in the next year or two, and when we right up there competing with those guys. So like the way I'm looking at it, I'm looking at them as people that I'm gonna come up against, not somebody that's like putting them on a pedestal, like thinking of them as a god or whatever. Like, I'm looking at them as just somebody that I probably will have to fight in the future. So, like, I was impressed by Mira's performance, but like, I'm 6'1". He's like 5'5" or something, like, do you know what I mean? So like, there's a big height difference there. So like, that's something I'm constantly keeping an eye on and just making sure that like I'm aware of what's going on in that division as well as in Cage Warriors division, just so that I can kind of see where I'm at and where I need to be in the future, if you know yourself.
Well, I noticed you got UFC soon in your Instagram bio, so it's obviously on the forefront of your mind. And so one of the reasons you're coming on today is that a couple of days ago, or last week actually, you officially announced your upcoming fight. Um, how exciting is this for you? Because obviously you've been signed to Cage Warriors for a while now for a number of different reasons. You haven't made your debut yet, but how excited were you? How was the feeling to finally announce that you were fighting at a professional level at Cage Warriors?
Oh, mate, I'm absolutely ecstatic. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just been a roller coaster of emotions since signing the contract, like getting like injuries, just the personal issues getting in the way of me fighting and stuff like that. So I can't wait to put on those yellow gloves and go out there and just show everybody why it's gonna be worth the wait to see me get in there. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm really looking forward to kind of showing the improvements because like my last fight I won, but I didn't perform because I was only coming off a loss. I wanted to go in there and win. I wasn't looking to go in there and actually put a statement. But for this one, I've been training like a man possessed. I'm looking forward to going in there and just showing Ian, Dane, and Graham Ball exactly where to sign me.
Yeah. And so for those that don't know, you're taking on Benoit Blanc at Cage Warriors
Mhm.
153 in Dublin. Um, I know it's a bit of a short period so far since when you announced a fight, but how has the preparations and the camp been going so far?
So like I've known about the Dublin card obviously for a long time now. So like my preparation has been like since the start of the year. So I was looking to try to get a fight before the Cage Warriors Dublin card because I wouldn't have had fought in a while. So I couldn't get an opponent leading up to the events that I was meant to be fighting on. So I was basically in camp leading up to this camp. So I'm kind of like my training has just been on point. It's just been a matter of just kind of trying to regulate it so I don't peak too early and stuff like that. So at the moment, like I've improved so much since probably like I don't know, since literally not last year. Like improvements have been major. I've been consistent. I've been smart, and like I've been very tuned in for this camp, and I'm really looking forward to kind of just showing people what I can do whenever I'm actually putting a bit of effort into it. Because like for a while there, I was kind of like not to like I was kind of operating at about 70%, not really putting all my effort in. Like it'd be all my effort in training. Like I put all my effort into training, and then I walk out the door, I kind of forget about the nutrition, the sleep, everything else. But for this camp now, because I'm obviously because it's a bigger show, there's implications to go to the UFC each fight. So I'm really paying attention to that. So there's a lot of stuff that I've been doing behind the scenes that's going to play a big factor in this fight.
Yeah. And how do you see Blanc as an opponent?
I see him as obviously he's a very good opponent. You know what I mean? Like I'm in Cage Wars to fight the best lads in Europe, so eventually I can step him again for the best lads in the world. So Benoit is a good opening fight for me. He's a submission grappler. He's he's coming up from flyweight, so I know he's going to be small. But I'm not overlooking him at all. Like, I know this is a big fight for him. I'm a big name. This is a good way for him to propel himself. But I'm coming in here to fucking run through this fella. Like, you know what I mean? I have all of my energy is going into finishing this fella, and not to take anything away from him. I know he's a good fighter, but the mindset that I'm in right now, and with the training that I've been doing and the people I've been training with, I'm coming in here to make it to put a statement.
Yeah, and it's your first fight within the promotion, as we've mentioned, and then taking into account where you fought before, and now it's in your back garden in Dublin. How do you think the crowd at Cage Warriors 153 will differ to what you fought in front of before?
Yeah, so like my last couple of fight, my last fight was in Belfast, so it wasn't too far away from home. But
Yeah.
I think this one now, literally just being around the corner, like the Tree Arena where the event's on is 15-minute drive from me. Do you know what I mean? So like I'm expecting it to be a big crowd, and I'm like I've been visualizing a lot and just kind of hearing the crowd and just hearing people scream my name and stuff like that, and just trying to not let that overwhelm me, because I know as much as I'm the hometown fighter, it's almost more pressure having to go out there in front of your family, your friends, everybody, and going out there to perform. But going out there and performing is something that I excel at, especially. Do you know what I mean? Like, it would be like, doesn't matter where I am in the world. Like, if I step in there, 99% of the times I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna win. So I'm just looking forward to going in there now and just literally just being in my element, just being in the cage again, moving around, being able to let my shots go. Like, everything's teeing up to do something special. So I think, especially with four of us fighting on the card now, there's gonna be a big support system for Team KF. So I'm just gonna channel that energy that's gonna be in the arena, and I'm gonna put it straight into the face.
You mentioned there visualizing the arena, visualizing the fight, the crowd. It's something that some fighters don't talk about a lot, so I'm kind of interested in that. Is that something your coaches come to you and tell you to do, or is that a personal thing?
It's not more really of a personal thing for me. Like, I like to almost put myself in that I like to put myself in that position of me walking out for a fight, stepping into the cage, getting Vaseline on my face, getting my hands checked. I like to just tick all them little boxes in my head. Like, sometimes I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it intentionally. Like, so sometimes I'm sitting in bed and I'm about to fall asleep. My body tenses up. I'm sweating, and I'm thinking about the fight, and I'm just like, and then I kind of bring myself back into the moment and relax. And then I think that kind of gives me an implication then when it does come to fight night, and I've thought about that, and I've put myself in that position that when it does happen, I'm able to bring myself back onto level foot, and be able to ground myself and really be in the moment and kind of seize that opportunity. That, because some people, I don't know if a lot of people do it, but like, it seems to be something that kind of works a lot for me, because like, and the one time I didn't do it was the one time that I lost it, and I was kind of going in there thinking I'm just gonna walk in here, I don't need to do much. But like, I like to really sit down on myself and kind of go through the whole scenario, go through the whole situation. Even though obviously, like, it might be different on the day, but as long as I kind of have a vision of what way it can go or it can't go, then it makes it a lot easier for me to kind of navigate on the day or on the night.
Yeah. And talking of Cage Warriors and the bantamweight division, it's recently been announced that Martin Yoni has relinquished his belt, and we're going to see a title fight between Kalen Loughran. Yeah, is that at Dublin? No, that's sorry, at Cage Warriors.
No, it's gonna be in Rome. Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah.
Rome.
So at the minute, is that the level you're looking at? I know you've mentioned the UFC as well, but because you're in the bantamweight division, because you're in Cage Warriors, is that where you're setting your sights at the minute?
Yeah, like, I'm setting my stall there from the get go to get that belt. You know what I mean? I have the amateur one, and it'll be nice just to kind of box out that part of my career as well, by getting the bantamweight gold as well in the pro rank. So that's definitely, like, ever since I got into MMA, I wanted to fight in cage warriors. Ever since I got in there, I wanted to get the cage warriors belt. Seeing Chris Cottle, Connor getting the belts, all the Irish lads, Paul Hughes and stuff like that. And James Webb, of course, my own teammate has been there, has walked that line, and has gotten the belt. So like, it's something that I'm definitely looking at, and it's something that's in it's not in my foreground at the minute, but it's definitely something I'm looking at later on in the future.
Yeah. And I know it was quite a while back now, but you are technically coming into this fight off the back of a win, a
Yeah.
cage conflict 6 against Mirage Ozbekzai. How did you see that fight from your point of view? I know you mentioned you didn't weren't at your best or whatever, but how did you see that fight going, and how do you think you performed?
In terms of giving myself a rating between 1 and 10, I think that was like a 5. Do you know what I mean? Like, like I was almost a little bit hesitant because I didn't want to overexpose myself or overextend myself to leave myself in positions where I might get caught or I might get taken down and stuff. So I was very hesitant. But I think I kind of needed that. I needed something like that to happen so I can kind of look back and be like, right, that's not the way I fight, because that was never the way I've ever. That's not the way I've ever fought. So now I've gone into this one, it's got me back to basics, and I really like. I've adjusted a lot of things in my games where I could have finished him a lot earlier than I did, and obviously he ends up getting injured in between the rounds 2 and 3. But for this one, I've been really focusing on my setting up my finishing shots and also being a lot more active on the front foot. I think a lot of the times I was letting him off the hook or hurt him, but I let him off the hook quite a bit. So for this one, like I'm not letting him off the hook. The second I see that little glare in his eye, and the second I see him just being like, I don't want to be here anymore, I'm gonna put it on him and I'm gonna get that finish.
Well, it's kind of testament to you that you didn't think you were a 10 out of 10, but you still got the finish and you still, performed at a very high level where you didn't let the rear naked choke happen and you dictate the pace and whatever. And I think that's testament to you, maybe the level you're at and believe you're at, that even if you're not at 10 out of 10, you can perform with these guys. That's why you're in Cage Warriors.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, absolutely. Like I'm always very critical of myself. Like I kind of it's almost detrimental to a point that I kind of have to mediate between myself that I can't be too lenient to myself or I can't be too hard on myself because like I think there's a saying goes, is like don't let a win go to your head and a loss go to your heart. So I'm very hard on myself. So like it's a matter of just trying being factual about the pros and cons of your performance, but also knowing that that's not your finishing point. That there's always something to progress to. And even if I do win, I'm still looking for reasons I could have done better. And I think that's just Chris's mentality just kind of trickling down to me because he wants perfection. And obviously in fighting, you'll never really get perfection, but it also doesn't mean that you shouldn't strive to be perfect and have perfect performance in your fight. So I think that kind of comes from top down and wanting everything to be clean, wanting the techniques that Chris has shown and the training that I'm putting in just to make it look effortless. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And between that period of that last fight and now, there has been around a year layoff. You were meant to fight Sam Kelly at Cage Warriors 146 last November. Unfortunately, you had to pull out. I didn't really see at all much about that. Was that down to injury? Other reasons? What was that down to?
Yeah, so there's just a bit. I had an ongoing injury that just like it's something that was that just kept nagging me and nagging me. So Chris just thought it was better off that I take a bit of time off to let it heal properly and kind of just recuperate and stuff like that. So I was heartbroken to have to pull out that fight because I put so much work into it, and like I was looking forward to going out there and finally getting my pair of yellow gloves on because most of the boys I train with already have their pair. So like I'm the last one on the list. So I'm just looking forward. I'm just like all of that is in hindsight now. Do you know what I mean? It's all behind me. So the only thing I'm really focusing on now is just my like the person that's in front of me now and just the tasks that I have in hand.
Yeah. And we've touched upon how Dublin is your home crowd. And for those that don't know, haven't seen Taka's viral video and that need to hear this, Dublin and Ireland is not in the UK, just for the record.
Exactly.
As you've mentioned, you're Zimbabwean born as well. And I think what we like to hear from, especially in combat sports, is the story of athletes. And I was just wondering whether you could give the viewers like a bit of a tale of how you came from Zimbabwe to Ireland and what that journey was like for you at a young age.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I moved to Ireland, I think I was about 5 years old. So yeah. So my mom, so there's a lot of stuff going on in Zimbabwe. So like I don't know if many people know, there's a sort of dictatorship going on and the country basically got run into the ground. So my mom and dad were very highly qualified people. So most of my family area. So they all moved out of Zimbabwe, went to the UK, went to Ireland, but my dad chose to settle in Ireland. So he went over, worked to get my mom over, and then they put two of them worked to get me and my sister over then. So we moved over. I was 5, I think she was about 8 or 9 at the time. So once we got here, like acclimating to Ireland was very different, different cultures, different skin color, a different way of living. Everything was completely different for me and my whole family. So when I was kind of settling in, I was lucky enough to find a good group of friends that kind of took me in. Their families took me in, see me as one of their own, and I think that's one of the reasons why, like, even when people hear me speak and stuff like that, I have a real strong Dublin accent because I was raised by like very Dublin people. Do you know what I mean? So there's no real like like I know some people have like the African kind of twang to the way to speak, even in the UK. But for me, like I can't put on any other accent except the Dublin accent. You know what I mean? So it's me through and through. But yeah, it was difficult navigating my way through, especially as a young black fella trying to navigate my way through like a world where I didn't really understand. I didn't really know where I fit into it. But when I found MMA, I really found my foot, and I kind of found something where I felt like I belonged. And especially being with Chris, he really gave me a sense of purpose. Obviously, because I could be hanging around with different crowds of people, sometimes with the bad people, sometimes with the good people. But when I met Chris, he kind of just, because he went through similar stuff as well, and it was kind of like his dad died when he was young, and my dad died when he was young as well. So we kind of had stuff that we had in common. So I think he kind of seen a little bit of himself in me. So when I started training with him, kind of put my head down, and I always knew I wanted to do MMA. So I was looking up that I had somebody that understood me in that sense of like having trauma at an early age and trying to figure a way through that, going out drinking with your friends as a form of therapy and stuff like that. So that was never exactly where I wanted to be, but it is somewhere where I found myself in life, and I had to pull myself out of it. But now looking back on it, like I'm grateful for all the hardships that have happened in my life, because it's made me into a stronger person, and especially for the line of work that I'm in, it really kind of pays dividends in the future when you come through a hard life, because sometimes you're gonna have hard fights and you just need to bite your gum shield and move through the fire. But I think from day one when I moved to Ireland, I think things were set into motion that I was always going to be on this path. I was always going to be a fighter. I was kind of like, even sometimes I'll be fighting on the road and stuff like that, because somebody will call me black or something, and I was like, obviously if you don't do anything in those situations, people will find a way to keep kind of like picking at you and kind of like taking chunks out of you until they eventually snap. So eventually, like I was kind of like, I'm not doing this anymore. So the second somebody said something to me, I just hit them straight away, and no one ever said that to me ever again. But I never wanted to be looked at as a person that people feared. I always wanted to be friendly, just approachable and stuff like that. So when I found fighting, it was a nice medium of people knowing that I can protect myself and not to walk over me, but also that I'm actually a friendly, approachable person. But I can also just I can throw a few hands if need be.
It's about the respect, isn't it? Although you're approachable,
Yeah.
you want to be respected as well. And you mentioned there about when coming over to Ireland, how you came in, because it's a predominantly white place, you would have experienced racism and stuff like that. Did you find the gym and the MMA was where that didn't matter, and that it was a different life?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like in the gym, like you can be from any walks of life in the gym. Like we're very different people in the gym, but once you kind of step onto that mat, you have a common goal, you have a common mission that you all want to be the best in the world. So, it's constantly pushing each other and kind of striving to become better and better. So, I'm sorry, just a second. No, it doesn't matter. Can you still see me?
Yeah, you're up. Yeah, you're fine.
Oh yeah, Grant. Sorry, I was just getting a call there, so I didn't know whether it was going to still be going.
Okay,
But
yeah.
yeah, we have common goals, we have common aim, and like and then we have a real kind of like camaraderie, which is kind of built from the top down, from Chris and stuff like that. So like once you're part of the Team KF family, then you'll never need to look anywhere else for acceptance, because you have it there you have it there in about 300 people that are in the gym, is what I was trying to say there.
Yeah. So I read as well that you started training like as a teen MMA training. Then following on from that, you had a very successful amateur career where you won all of your fights, 4 by knockout and finish as well. How was the switch between the amateur and the professional game? Was it a bigger or smaller difference in skill level than you expected?
Because we're always kind of training like at a really high level, you know what I mean? So when the transition between amateur and pro did come, it wasn't that much of a shock to me, because I'd already been training with high level guys, and the way that we're taught is real, like it's real, like the way that Chris explains it is just that like he got taught loads of wrong things at the beginning, so he had to like work them out of his game. So now for us, we're getting the corrected version of everything. So that means our training is a lot more streamlined, and it's a lot easier to translate into high level fighting. So from the very get go, we were just getting taught the right things by the right person, and it was a lot easier to transfer those skills from amateur to pro, because we were like we never seen the wrong thing, if you know what I mean.
You mentioned now you fight out of Team KF. you brought up there's 4 of you fighting at the card as well that you're on. I know you've got a really good relationship with your coaches, as you've mentioned. Chris, that's Chris Fields, for people that don't know. You've also got Tom King, who teaches at BJJ at the gym as well. What is the gym atmosphere like on a daily basis?
The gym atmosphere is like, we come in, we have a laugh at each other. Do you know what I mean? So like, let's say we do a session at 11 o'clock, we come in for 10 minutes, we just sit down, just chat shit, have a laugh, enjoy each other's company. There's no bad blood, there's no negativity. If something bad's going on at home, you watch the door and you just leave it there and you just come in and enjoy a session. And then you go in there, you punch the hell off each other for about 20 minutes, half an hour. And then afterwards you sit down and you have a laugh again. Do you know what I mean? So like the atmosphere in the gym is what's kind of really getting the results going. And kind of looking back at like the level of it, looking back on the results that the lads have been having now since I haven't been fighting, it's going strength to strength between the people they're fighting and the level of the people they're fighting and like the regularity of the wins. You know what I mean? There's very few losses and everyone's constantly competing against higher level people each time they step out. So you kind of really you see the grind that we're putting in together, and it's a real team vibe. And like I said earlier on, it's camaraderie. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the thing that Chris really built. Chris and Tom, sorry, I keep saying to Chris because obviously he's the MMA coach, so he's the one that I'm dealing with first and foremost. But also same with Tom. So now like they're 2 leaders leading from the front and competing constantly and just showing us how we should interact with other people and also how we should be interacting with other people in the gym. So we're not like a bunch of jocks who walk in and be like, oh, we're MMA fighters, blah blah blah. We just walk in and say hello to everybody because my training is not more important than somebody else's training. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's one of them things where like it's one for all, really.
And for people like you, Ryan and Adam Shelley, Leon Hill, who are all looking forward to the fight coming up, do you push each other on? Is there a very competitive atmosphere? What's that like when multiple people in the gym have got a fight coming up?
It's competitive, obviously, but like that competitive spirit is what drives success. You know what I mean? You can't succeed with that competition, and it's not competition as in I want them like I want what they have, or you can be competitive in that way, saying like if it was somebody amateurs like, oh yeah, we got Sandy Cagers, I'm like, I want that, but it's not like I'm gonna go out my way to hurt you to get what I want. You know what I mean? So we're all in the same pool together. You know what I mean? We're all swimming together. We're all trying to stay afloat together. So like, there's no point in dragging one person down to keep yourself afloat. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that's gonna hold you back. It's gonna hold you back if you're slowing someone else down. That means it's going to hold you back because then you need the other person to be kind of like leveling up every time. So that means that you can level up as well. So the way that it is, it's just we're all bouncing off each other. We're all constantly working, asking each other questions. It's like, oh yeah, you're catching me with this. Then like, how are you doing that? Or how can I put that into my game? And it's literally it's just a circle. Do you know what I mean? Like if somebody does this or somebody's doing that, we figure a way out, and then we just work around it. And like it's a really good atmosphere to be in. Even with 4 big fights coming, there's no animosity. There's no my fight's more important. We're all in this together, and we're all going to go out there and show why Team KF is the best team in Europe. Do you know what I mean? That's the end goal. It's not we're on proving the best fighter. It's like we want to prove that we're the best gym. Period.
Yeah, and you just compared Team KF to the rest of Europe. And the next question I was actually going to ask was, how do you see Irish MMA as a whole at the minute and the level it's at compared to the rest of the world?
I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to compare Irish MMA because some gyms are on completely different paths to other gyms. So like you look at Team KF and FAI, we're striving for the UFC. We're striving to be at that world stage. You know what I mean? So if you look at the likes of FAI and Team KF, we're on a different trajectory to everybody else. You know what I mean? Like we're the top 2 teams in the country, and it's not by accident that we're all in cage warriors. And there's lads that are in UFC contention now, and that's because we're looking for the hard fights. We're looking to get out there and just prove our worth against the rest of Europe. You know what I mean? Like if you want to go to Bellator, you can go to Bellator. Do you know what I mean? That's up to you. But our aim is to be in the UFC. Our aim is to be UFC world champions. We don't just want to be there. We want to be competing there and showing that what we're learning can compete on a world stage. And that's the bottom line, really. I think that's the difference between FAI and Team KF and everybody else in the country. Yeah.
I know he's not the only massive Irish fighter, but does seeing somebody like Ian Gary in the UFC at the minute, do you think that brings the whole of the country together and it inspires this generation of MMA fighters in the country?
Yeah, like seeing him there is good, obviously good for Irish MMA. It's good exposure for the rest of us, and yeah, I just think that like it's gonna come to a point where like there's gonna be so many of us kicking down that door that it's gonna be hard to ignore that Irish MMA. And like I know there's like a bit of a plateau there for a while where there wasn't really many rounds going in, but that was because the attention was going into the wrong places. The energy was being put into the wrong places and directing people in the wrong direction. So now when you look at it now, a couple of years after that plateau, you're seeing the influx of all the lads going into cage wars, all the lads looking to get the UFC, and then in the next year or two, I guarantee you, like there's going to be at least four of us from my gym in the UFC, and as well as the lads up in FAI that are looking to get in there as well. And it's just because we only had Paddy McCrory down there recently enough, and Paddy was doing a bit of training with us because like the relationship that we have in the gym that we have with that gym is like we'll fight each other in the amateurs on a Saturday, and on the Sunday we'll be coming down helping each other to get better because it's us against everybody else, you know what I mean? But if it comes to it where like the only option is we're fighting each other, then we're back to being enemies. But for the meantime, we're all just trying to push each other just so that we can elevate each other's teams and bring ourselves to that next level, which is the UFC.
Yeah. And finally, mate, I don't want to take too much of your time, but you've mentioned UFC a lot. You've got a UFC in your bio, as I mentioned as well. I asked this to all fighters, so I don't know if there's much point in asking it, but where do you see the future for Taka Mhandu going? And is there any goals you've got in the near future that you wouldn't mind telling us?
Obviously the short term goal now, which was my long term goal a while ago, was to get the Cage Wars at bantamweight belt. Excuse me. So first and foremost, that's my short term plan to get that belt. A medium term plan is to be in the UFC, to get my contract, finally get myself a pair of those gloves again. The way that I see it is like I'm just building up a little collection of different gloves from different promotions and stuff like that. So obviously then, yeah, just the midterm goal is get in the UFC, get my couple of wins in there, and the long term goal is to be cracking that top 10, top 5 in the next 3 5 years, to be fighting for a title then in the end of that 5 year range. You know what I mean? So like it's all down to a sweet science where like I have it's all broken down. It's all there right in front of me. Just a matter of me putting in the work and showing up every day. So that's the goals there right there and then.